What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Talk Louder podcast, where we geek out on all things rock and roll. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Leave us your likes and comments. You can do the same on Facebook, likes and comments. Follow us also on Spotify and iTunes. And be sure to check our affiliate links in the YouTube description. We oftentimes post links where you can buy some of the products that we mention in the course of the episode. I'm Metal Dave Glessner, along with my co-host Jason McMaster, and we've got a good one for you today. It is the impossible debate, Ozzy versus Dio in Black Sabbath, and we'll go back and forth on that here in just a bit. But first, Jason, what's going on with you?
Otherwise known as part 10,000 of the Deep Purple Tree episode.
Referencing a previous episode. Yes, indeed.
Well, it's going to happen. I'm doing fine. Working on rock and roll and working and glad to be working.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah, I see you've got some dates coming up, so it looks like the touring concerts are starting to pick up a little bit. So,
Well, from what I can tell, there's a lot of the big boys are, booking tours that start in the fall, as early as the fall, which is pretty much here very soon. Well, after summer. Some of them are probably starting up light, maybe midsummer.
yeah.
Um, but I don't know any new releases that coincide with those tours or anything. But yeah, a lot of the bigger bands I'm starting to see um, echoes of them getting to work
Yeah.
and making up for lost time.
Yeah.
And there is yeah, I've got a couple of things doing October 9th at Sunken Gardens with Legs Diamond, Lita Ford, um, Stars.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a kick-ass old rock and roll dinosaur show.
Is Moxie on that bill?
I think so.
This
I
is a
don't have I
this
don't have all the whole lineup memorized,
yeah.
but it's a San Antonio Sunken Gardens hootenanny.
Yeah.
And then I've got one in September in Minnesota. It's in Hinckley, Minnesota, and I think they call it Rock Timber. And it's a big, you know, cock rock fest. Sebastian Bach. It's a
All right.
Bach rock fest.
Yeah, there you go.
hmm
Well, good. Glad to
Yeah,
see glad to
couple
see
things.
things are coming along.
hmm
Yeah, I have my wife was at a bookstore recently and bought me this edition of Classic Rock magazine. It's the
Oh,
100 greatest albums of all time, or whatever.
ah,
Speaking
nice.
speaking of impossible debates,
That's like talk louder porn.
yeah, exactly right, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm a big fan
Does
of
she
classic.
realize she's contributing to your problem?
Yeah, I think she does it on purpose so that I'll stay locked away in my room
Yeah.
and just won't bother her.
Well,
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah, gotta love it, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm reading up on that. I'm a big fan of Classic Rock magazine. The writing's always pretty good, and the photos are great, and it's just little synopsis of various albums that you and I own, and those that we wish we did own, and those that we used to own and lost, and just a great tally of some of the great hard rock, heavy metal records of all time. So
Nice. That's a super score.
yeah, yeah, I like to read, and if I'm gonna read, I tend to read about music. So yeah, that was a nice score. I also picked up. You mentioned End of an Ear, which is a local
hmm
record store here in Austin, Texas. I was there with my son recently, and I picked up three Ted Nugent albums, all three for $15.
I
And
saw the photo. I saw the post of
yeah,
that. Yeah.
I'm the first to say that I find Ted Nugent to be an intolerable human being, but oh my God, those records. and I figured I don't have any of them. I got Scream Dream, Cat Scratch Fever, and State of Shock, all three for 15 bucks. And I didn't own them, and I had never owned them previously.
That's his best era.
I know.
That and
And I got it.
the first album and those and Weekend Warriors,
Yeah.
Double Live Gonzo, and you're kind of done.
Yeah. I mean, these are three that I never owned before. And I thought, I looked at them, they were all in great shape. And I'm like, three for 15 bucks, I'll take them all. And one of them is actually, The State of Shock was actually a promo copy. And I'm listening to it, and I was a Ted Nugent, I'm familiar with all the hits, and I'm familiar with Double Live Gonzo and the first record. So I'm doing, digging kind of deep on State of Shock and Scream Dream and Cat Scratch Fever. And oh man, what a blistering guitar player. And the sound is just so dirty. It's great. I can't believe I didn't own this previous. It's been a lot of good listening lately here at Metal Dave HQ with the Nugent on in the background. I almost hate to support him because I can't stand him as a person anymore. But
Well,
that's what.
to elaborate a little bit on the discography there, once you get pretty much up to Double Life Gonzo and you throw Free for All in there, that's really about it. I don't think I'm missing a whole lot with the aforementioned records. And then you hear him speak like without his guitar on, without him putting on a show, right? You hear
Yeah,
him speak normal about his personal reality and views on how he sees the world and how he feels it should be, and
yeah,
fuck him.
yeah. I'm not a big fan of him as a person, but
Right.
I couldn't pass up three albums for 15 bucks. And
No,
Scream Dream,
super
Scream,
score.
Scream Dream is the one right now. I mean, that thing is just, those guitars are just nasty sounding,
Yeah.
and man, he's a hell of a picker.
Yeah.
Uh, so
I
trying
always
to,
called him the heavy metal Chuck Berry.
and I can see why. Yeah, he
Yeah.
kind of has that thing
Him
going.
and Angus, of course, and then I've said this in another episode, but Lips from Anvil is a big Nugent guy.
Ah,
And I've
okay.
seen old photos of old Anvil shows where, much like Ted, Lips has Fender stacks, not Marshall stacks behind him.
Yeah, yeah,
Pretty weird.
yeah. I don't know anything about the gear. That's your department, but
Eh.
I'll take your word for it. Anyway, that's kind of what's going on around here. We got a good show today. It almost seems criminal to debate the virtues of Ozzy versus Dio, and I don't think there is a winner here. I just think that's a snappy title for the episode because it's really hard to pick a favorite. But let's get into it. We're putting Black Sabbath in the spotlight today. We are talking specifically about the Ozzy Osbourne era and the Ronnie James Dio era. Ozzy, of course, helped put the band on the map, has the larger catalog. Dio, of course, came along and basically rescued the band, put out two classic albums, and then came along a little later for a third. We'll talk about that. So let's start off with where you first discovered and heard Black Sabbath.
That is an easy one. My older brother's record collection.
Ah,
And
it's
I want
great.
to say it was probably my brother Joe that had sold our soul for rock and roll. And that's like, Kiss Originals or something like that. It's pretty much a greatest hits of the first like three records or something. And I started stealing that out of his room quite often. And ultimately, I think he ended up leaving a bunch of records behind, so I sort of inherited those. And that was one of them, or I inherited a few of them, and that was one of them. And thank God and the devil both, because I just started. That's around the time that I really started to try to play my bass good
Yeah.
as opposed to just bang on it and have fun, right? Because there was a lot of cool bass lines. Geezer
Amazing.
is doing all kinds of cool stuff. And, I was infatuated with Gene Simmons actually already. And like, I like the bass line for 100,000 years. And I like, just Gene's like a Paul McCartney kind of um, major scales and stuff like that, where he's bouncing around within the scale and over the chords, and if not playing some kind of like upbeat sort of disco, thing, like he's, sometimes it's the downbeat, sometimes it's the upbeat. Anyway, not to be technical or anything, that's actually fundamental of the bass players to sort of sometimes add some tension while not losing the vibe of what the guitars are doing.
Yeah.
So Geezer was like this whole other animal. Um, it would have been like someone playing and bass and like a wedding, like a slow dance type of a thing, going to like like super fast runs and vibrato and gnarly tones and different tunings and things like that. So, anyway, I was completely engulfed in that record because
Yeah.
of bass more than anything else.
Yeah.
But I love the material, and after that, I think I got Master of Reality,
Yeah.
and that blew my mind. And I was stuck on that record for a long time.
Yeah, I same for me. My first Black Sabbath album was "We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll," and mine was on a cassette. And I found out many years later that that wasn't the band had nothing to do with that. It was a label release, to sort of capitalize on the band's success or whatever. And it was just what you said, basically a greatest hits package. So that's kind of, we've said this before when I was, first trying to learn a little bit about a band that I didn't know anything about. I always started with the greatest hits or a live album, which is basically the same thing.
So the vinyl of Soul, We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll, just for unless if some people have never held that vinyl in their hand, and they'll,
Yeah,
but the ones who have will know what I speak of.
it
So
folds
this
out.
is a gatefold.
Yeah,
Have you seen that?
it folds out into an upside down cross, right?
No, it folds out into like a coffin with a lady laying in it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
have
it's
seen that.
incredible.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
this the most it's the scariest thing I had seen in
At that,
78.
yeah, at that point in my life, yeah. I mean, just the name Black Sabbath was frightening, and then um, I, like you, I've always considered Black Sabbath to be, first of all, one of my favorite bands. But secondly, man for man, to me, they're the greatest band in all of hard rock and heavy metal. Like if you know how you people sometimes put together their dream team and they're like, oh well, if I could have Bon Scott on vocals and Eddie Van Halen on guitar and blah blah. None of that. I'm saying if you had to take the band at face value, it's really hard to beat Black Sabbath because Bill Ward is my favorite drummer. Geezer Butler is my favorite bass player. Tony Iommi is one of my favorite guitar players, and he invented heavy metal, in my opinion. And then you've got Ozzy Osbourne. So, man for man, to me, that band is just the ultimate group of players. And I remember hearing "We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll" and just loved it. And for, like you said, I liked the fact that the bass and the drums weren't just merely the rhythm section. They were kind of off in their own little world and drifting and coming back and doing sort of jazzy stuff. And they were putting on a show unto themselves where up to that point in my life and my listening experience, the drums and the bass were basically just the backbone of the song. This was the first time I heard a band where the rhythm section actually kind of came to the forefront, and I loved it, you know.
Yeah, the much like it makes me think of Rush and how Neil and Geddy work together. It really is similar. I'm glad that you said something about that because it's not really something that you think of when you think of Black Sabbath. You think of a package or a song or whatever, you know. Um, the it's interesting to me. You mentioned before I forget that your opinion is that Iommi invented heavy metal. So I want to throw this up in the air, um, or just ask you, why do you? I have a story that I tell that basically reveals my opinion of why what you said might be true. But why would you say that?
Well, I think for
Even
me,
though we're supposed to be talking about Ozzy, let's talk about Iommi for a
well, we're
second.
talking about Black Sabbath, so
Yeah.
yeah, fair enough. Uh, to me, heavy metal is sort of defined by the sound of the guitars, first and foremost, for me. And with Iommi, you know, I think most people know he lost his fingertips in an accident
Hmm.
as a kid.
Hmm.
So he had to downtune the strings in order to make up for the loss of his fingers, and that gave him the heavier sound. And then, you know, with the fingertips missing, it was almost kind of added to a muted, more muffled sound. And then, of course, he had to turn everything up in order to make up for the lack of strength in his fingers. So all those things combined gave us the classic Tony Iommi sound. And I think even he would say it was, you know, no pun intended, but purely accident.
Yes.
Uh, but it was one of those things with, what do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
So he needed to do something. And so,
Inadvertently created a whole new, changed the world because of his act.
exactly.
Yeah. And he thought his career was over.
Right. Right.
He would I love everything you said. There's one more little nugget to put in the story is that about his strings is he would I've heard that, that he would put together his own sets of string, like different gauges of string that he thought would work together on a six-string guitar, and and that would tune the way he could tune them, and it would be easier for him to press down on the neck, etc., or even bend when he played solos, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
So the lighter the gauge string is already, in theory, easier to bend because it's lighter, but those smaller gauge strings actually, the torque is tighter than they would be than the thicker gauge strings when you kind of think about the physics of it all. So
Yeah.
he had to tune everything down low enough to where it was comfortable for him. So anyway, all of these things and that had to happen for him to just be able to comfortably play his guitar created a sound known throughout the universe as something that makes you think of heavy metal.
Yeah. And I read also that, you know, as you mentioned, he thought his career was over, or yeah, I mean, he didn't even have a career at the time. He thought his days of playing the guitar were over.
Well, he was in like top 40 bands. He played in wedding bands and stuff.
Yeah.
He's
But
playing popular music wearing a suit.
yeah, so I mean, he was, you know, he was out there making a little money, I guess, playing
In
guitar.
in in 69, he played the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus as guitarist for.
Jethro Tull.
That's right. He
Yeah.
played a Stratocaster.
Yeah.
That's one of the only times you can see him playing a Stratocaster.
Well, he lost his fingers. He figured his playing days were over, and then I read that somebody turned him on to Django Reinhardt, who is a uh, fairly famous guitarist. I don't even know what genre he plays. I've heard his name
Uh,
before.
it's it's I mean, you could say jazz and not be wrong, and
I was gonna say
it
jazz.
it's almost like fusion. Sometimes
Yeah,
it could be
yeah.
even, I don't know, I'm talking out of my butt here,
No,
but maybe Latin or
I was I was going to say jazz, and but the point is that Django lost a few fingertips. So they were like, "Look, if this guy can do it, you can still play." And he was inspired by the fact that this great guitar player was getting by with missing a few fingers or fingertips or whatever. So that kind of pushed him forward. And you know what the bitch of it all is the day that Tony lost his fingers, he was filling in for someone who called in sick. He wasn't even supposed to be there.
Yeah, it's pretty weird, but that's kind of a thing. Um, all in all, he probably would have still become Tony Iommi as we know him, fingertips or not.
Well, it was a happy accident, and
Yeah.
it definitely helped create and influence the sound that.
So not too long after, I mean, I can see him like sticking sewing thimbles on his fingertips trying to play his guitar, but I think that at not too terribly long after the accident, he had this glove he could put on that had hard plastic
Yeah,
tips, and he was on tour in with Van Halen, I think. Um, as the opener. And he only had one of those gloves, and he left it in the freaking dressing room. And so they were late to the gig because they had to turn around and go back to the venue to get his fingers. Oh, I left me fingers. He had to go back and get his fingers.
dude, you
And
talk about a Spinal Tap moment. How
it's
about that?
total. Yeah, I forgot
Dude,
me fingers. We're late to the gig because I forgot me fingers.
bloody hell.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, that accident and that disfiguration of his fingers helped shape the sound of Black Sabbath. But and we mentioned the rhythm section having sort of a jazzy, sort of a free form style, which was very unusual, I think. But on top of it all is Ozzy with that vocal. I mean, that his voice to me, I like to use the word feral, like just something like a street cat, something that's just meowing and moaning and screeching and uh, very. At least it comes off as um, very. I don't want to say untrained, but there's something about it that's very unique, and it suited the music so well because he just sounded like a someone who is in pain or possessed or something. You know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at? His voice was perfect for the lyrics that he was singing on top of the music that was in the background.
Yeah, I even though I claim to be some kind of singer, uh he sounds like a tenor to me, and Dio is a tenor. But Dio has more girth in his voice to compare tones, right?
Yeah,
And Ozzy has more of a nasal tone.
very. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I think that it really served the music very well.
definitely.
Uh yeah, because it cut through. I feel like Ozzy is actually a better singer than people give him credit for. At the same time, for those people who are like cheering that last statement on, uh, you know, a lot of people think differently. They think that he's not very good, and all they want to hear is Dio. And I'm stuck in the middle because you have no Dio without Ozzy.
Yeah,
In a roundabout way, you have no Dio. And I feel like the things that Dio did for Sabbath um, are incredible moments in the long story of Black Sabbath.
yeah,
The back to Ozzy's voice, untrained. I like the word a lot because it's usually that sort of untrained singer, thing that you hear when you hear a singer and something sounds a little bit maddening about their voice.
yeah,
Thank God that that's a thing in rock music, because if you put some like trained choir pro, gold medalist of singing in the room with Black Sabbath, I'm not gonna fucking like it.
That's exactly what I was getting at. It's like Ozzy's voice was, uh, at least for me, it was like nothing I'd ever heard at the time. Very nasally, like you said, but that's also what gave it that almost like I used the word possessed earlier. It's almost like a uh, I don't know. It sounds like it's otherworldly or something, or it's he's in pain or something. And whatever that quality is that I can't quite choose the words for is exactly what makes it perfect for Black Sabbath. It sounds like a witch singing for Black Sabbath. you know, it's
Yeah,
just
it's hard. It's hard to describe. I think that between the two of us, we're sort of like agreeing to disagree on a couple of things. Now, I don't necessarily think that he sounds possessed. I think he's trying to sound possessed, which is it's working, but it's also he's very sort of like straight laced with his melodies. I don't hear vibrato. Like when you hear Dio, you hear that vibrato in that. He sounds trained. He's full control.
yeah,
And Ozzy is a little whiny and nasally, and um, he's singing a lot of Geezer's lyrics.
all of Geezer's lyrics.
Well,
Yeah,
there's something to say, but he did write a lot. I think he wrote Paranoid. I think
lyrics.
Yeah, I think so.
He might have contributed some. I think he's even said that. I mean, he might have. I think his greatest contribution was he's said that he's come up with melody ideas, and but Geezer was primarily the lyricist, and during
Yeah.
the whole
Well,
Ozzy
the
era.
reason I would throw that up in the air as just like something to shoot at is there that the those DVDs or those shows. I think there's a bunch of them on Amazon Prime that you can watch. Um, classic classic albums.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
yeah,
Ooh, there's one for
paranoid.
with Paranoid. Yeah,
Yeah,
and they're in the studio
uh-huh.
and they've got the tracks up, and I forget who it is. It's a famous producer.
Roger
Uh,
Bain.
he's playing the vocal tracks that didn't make they were cutting room floor tracks, right? And it's Ozzy like singing, trying all these different lines and like mumbling in the mic and something, the finish with my woman. He's going for it. And he's just
Yeah.
trying all these different things until he found the right thing. That's why I think that he didn't have the words
Well,
because
that
the story behind Paranoid is hey, you've got 30 minutes of music. It's the label wants 33. You
yeah.
need to write another song, and so they just started riffing, and he's in there, making up
Yeah.
some shit.
It was
So
a last minute song added to that record.
and the song charted the record. The song
Yeah.
was the song that it was a Sweet Child of Mine. Same thing. It's
Yeah.
accident. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And man, what a riff and what a song. I mean, it became their signature song, and it still holds up today. And I mean, I can't hear that song and not, start pounding the steering wheel or playing air guitar or whatever. It's just a monster song.
Well, I love how songs later on, like with Dio, when you think of uh, Neon Nights.
Yeah.
That has a little bit of Paranoid in it if you really think about it.
Yeah. It's
The
got some of that
groove is
chug.
the groove is choppy, a little
Yeah.
choppier than Paranoid.
Yeah.
Um, but it's signature Sabbath by way of Paranoid.
Yeah. So, um, if you what do you think is your favorite album of the Ozzy era? Your favorite Black Sabbath
You
era?
know me, I go back to Kiss. It's like, what's your favorite Kiss album? Well, the first five. I can't. It's hard for me to. I'm not good at those on
Yeah.
social media. Those little like, okay, this one or that one. and then you see this giant thread of 1,000 people going, "Oh, definitely the first album," or "No
Yeah.
way, dude," and this entire thing. I'm like, I skip over that crap.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't.
I've
Uh, I'm not gonna be that guy that goes both, because
yeah.
you're not playing the game right. So, because I can't play the game right apparently. So,
Yeah. I've always had a hard time too because there's so much to choose from and it's all so great, but I've typically always leaned towards volume 4 as being my
wow,
favorite. Um,
sick.
yeah,
It's
it's a
so
great
sick.
album. Snowblind is one of my favorite Sabbath songs, and that's on there. Supernaut.
What you get is what you see.
Yeah. And here's the thing also, this needs to be brought up that Black Sabbath is considered like, you know, one of, if not the, in my opinion, the founding, heavy metal band, the heavy metal band that started it all. But man, they could turn on a dime. And I mean, Tony Iommi, something like Laguna Sunrise is just beautiful acoustic guitar and so peaceful and tranquil. They could go from something like Children of the Grave to something like Laguna Sunrise effortlessly. And
Yeah, I like Orchid.
yeah, yeah, same vibe. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so it's almost unfair to pigeonhole them as a metal band, but they're so good at the metal that they can't avoid the tag. But they
Well,
were so much more than that.
those are like little neoclassical ditties.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
little places on the record where, you'll even hear like strings go off. Oh, all kinds of string section going on, and he's just playing an acoustic on top of it, and maybe it's
yeah.
doubled, and he'll do a little harmony. It's incredible.
And then
It's like I can see him with the big hat under a tree with the lute and the
yeah,
stream and the goblins running around playing catch.
right, right.
Hmm.
Yeah, and Ozzy's voice is suited to all that stuff as well, like he can shriek like a possessed maniac, but then he can also when he does like changes, for example, uh his voice has that quality of desperation that just makes him sound like he's feeling every bit of pain that he's expressing in a song like Changes. And, again, Ozzy's voice is just perfectly suited for everything that Black Sabbath did. And I think he doesn't get a lot of credit for being a great singer because maybe technically he's not, but to me, a lot of where where you stand is connected to what you're trying to express.
Yeah.
So you could be a great technical singer, but if you're trying to emote a certain you know quality like heartbreak or pain or sorrow or desperation or even happiness or whatever, if you don't have that quality in your voice, it doesn't matter how technically
Well, here,
great you are.
all in all, if he was guessing, he killed it.
Yeah.
If he was making it up as he went along, fucking killed it.
Yeah.
That's all there is to say. So if Dio were here, he would say the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rivalry was. I'm sure there was an obvious rivalry between the two of them. I know there was. I don't know any sort of legit backstory to elaborate, but I think that Dio really does know that Ozzy on those old Sabbath records he's essential to what was the genesis of Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
And like Orchid and Laguna Sunrise, these moments of like mystic in the Shire on the tree swing and hanging out with Frodo and friends. That's freaking awesome. But then they created Doom.
Yeah. Yeah, and
And you
Dio
need
has
Ozzy to create Doom because he was, like you said, had a maniacal tone about his voice.
yeah.
Whether he sounded crazy, he was trying to, and it worked. But see, even Dio sounds crazy. He can sound gnarly and like he's completely emoting something.
Yeah. To me, when Dio gets in that frame of mind. To me, he sounds more like a roaring monster,
Okay.
whereas Ozzy to me sounds like somebody who's locked up in a padded room, literally losing their mind.
Well,
And
he
that
he
to
he he played off of that well.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, that's an emotion, and he does it well, and
Mm.
it's Black Sabbath. Now, it's funny that I don't think they've ever really had a rivalry except for the time when Ronnie wouldn't open for Ozzy at those
Okay.
couple of dates in Costa Mesa. But I've interviewed Ronnie, and he's acknowledged. I mean, he's given Ozzy every bit of credit he's due. I mean,
Let's talk about that. Well, how did that even come up?
what the interview?
No, what you said. Like, did you ask Dio straight up, "Hey, dude, come on, give me some dirt on Ozzy. Tell me
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
what you think of him as a singer." You know,
No, I'll tell you how that came up,
yeah, that's my question.
yeah, um, it came up because I told Ronnie that I felt like Black Sabbath with Ozzy and then Black Sabbath with Dio were almost, in my mind, two entirely different bands. And he totally agreed with that. And in agreeing with that, he said, "Look, I'll tell you, you're absolutely right. They are two different bands, in my opinion, because what Ozzy did with Black Sabbath absolutely created heavy metal, the music that we've all come to love, and no one could do what he did except him with Black Sabbath. Then when I joined the band, it turned into a different animal. So it is I do look at them as two separate bands, much like you do. And so that's where he revealed to me anyway that, he gives credit where credit is due and he takes nothing away from Ozzy and in fact credits him for creating, you know, a template for everything that Ronnie James Dio followed. Without Black Sabbath, there would have been no Elf, there would have been no Rainbow, there would have been no vocal spot open for Black Sabbath for him to fill,
Yeah.
and he wouldn't have had the solo career that he had. So he acknowledged that, Ozzy with Black Sabbath created something special. And I always thought it was interesting too that I read that uh, Dio was suggested as Ozzy's replacement by Sharon Osbourne, who at the time was known as Sharon Arden, who was the daughter of Don Arden, who was the manager for Black Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was a weird little twist. Like, she's the daughter of Black Sabbath's manager. And when they need a singer, she suggested Ronnie James Dio. And then she went on to marry Ozzy.
Well, she was probably already with Ozzy.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, who
Well,
knows?
when you think about it, so Ozzy's, leaving the tour, it's 1979 or whatever, and he's all fucked up, and he crawls back to England or something, and he already knows Sharon because that's his manager's daughter.
Yeah, yeah,
So they're probably dating and have probably already been in cahoots anyway because Ozzy's, this sounds terrible, but I think he was kind of a deadbeat dad,
yeah, I think he
and he
was.
was already kind of fucking up and tooling around and fucked up too.
Yeah,
Obviously he's fucked up.
yeah,
And then him and Sharon end up just moving to Los Angeles and stealing Quiet Riot and making records.
yeah. Yeah, it's probably. I mean, there's
I
that
mean,
makes
I
sense.
just, yeah, I just kind of like mowed over the rose bush, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of it's kind of pretty much how it went down, really. If you just kind of throw the rock against the wall and it cracks open, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
I like that.
Yeah,
So, but the funny thing too is that Ozzy leaves Black Sabbath and goes on launches a spectacular solo career,
all right,
and Ozzy or Ronnie steps into Ozzy's shoes and takes Black Sabbath to a level that they hadn't been to in 5 or 6 years. All of a
right.
sudden they're back on top,
Hey,
and
there's a small elephant I want to throw up in the air. Um, why did Bill Ward not play on Mob Rules?
On my well, he did the Heaven and Hell record, and I think he tried to start the tour. And at that point was when his health and his demons and the alcohol and all that stuff, in the band's opinion, started hampering his performance. They actually brought in Vinny Appice to finish out the Heaven and Hell tour, from what I understand. So by the time they went in to do the Mob Rules record, Vinny had already been in the band and playing live with them, and Bill was gone. Uh, and Bill Ward is such a it's almost a sad story, because I think he is my favorite drummer in all of rock and metal, and has been for years and years. I just think he's so unique and interesting, and it's just a shame that he and the band aren't able to work out their differences or whatever. And if he can't play, he can't play. I understand both sides of the story. I just think it's a shame that it's come to that, because they're all
Yeah,
still
I, I,
around.
I I guess I didn't think about it that much. I just thought it was a big bummer enough to me uh, to feel butthurt about it, and just never really investigate or know why that Vinny came in and really saved the day. And once again, Mob Rules is just as good as Heaven and Hell, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a
And it
great
and it
record.
and it also it had a little bit, maybe just a little bit more commercial value because of the title track being on the heavy metal movie soundtrack.
Yeah, and it might have also benefited from the success of Heaven and Hell. So they proved themselves with a new singer.
Yeah.
So the world is paying attention, the world is interested, and as you said, the song "Mob Rules" came out on that movie, Heavy Metal, and so yeah, their star was rising again.
Hmm.
And I've always been a Heaven and Hell guy. It's like that album is one of my top three favorite albums of all time, and Mob Rules is so good. I often tend to downplay it because I'm such a huge fan of Heaven and Hell, but every time I go back and I listen to Mob Rules, I find myself thinking, "Wow, this really is a coin toss, man. These are both really, really good records."
Man, if you put headphones on and listen to Sign of the Southern Cross, you will get the willies.
Yeah, yeah. And you know
And I
another one
and I,
that,
and I think that, sorry to interrupt. I think that when you can do the same to, like, Don't Talk to Strangers.
yeah,
That's Dio had this way to emote the story that he's telling, and Sign of the Southern Cross gives me the greatest heebie-jeebie,
yeah,
and then Don't Talk to Strangers is the same.
yeah,
They have two different vibes in a lot of ways, but they also are very shit. They might even be in the same key. I don't know. I'm not running to my guitar and a tuner to find out. So
yeah. But I mean, and then so the other twist in the story was, as we mentioned earlier, Geezer Butler was responsible for writing like 90 to 95% of all the lyrics when Ozzy was in the band. And then when Dio joined the band, Geezer was like, "Thank God someone is finally here that can write, so I don't have the entire burden of writing the lyrics." And lyrically, you can hear a different direction in Sabbath with Dio. It did get a little more Dungeons and Dragons, kind of like where he was going to go with his solo career. Uh, but man, I think when they came out with Dio, to me, they were just a heavier, supercharged beast. It's like Black Sabbath with Ozzy was a heavy band, but there was something about the chug and the weight and the, as you said earlier, the heft or the girth or something of the music when Dio came on board, that is like really, really powerful. And that's kind of why I consider
Dio's
that.
voice really sort of matched up with Tony's guitar.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it did. I think Ozzy's voice matched up as well, but I think
Well, it played well against it. it. Like,
I
Dio's voice was heavy and fat, like Tony's
yeah,
guitar.
I think with Ozzy, I think with Ozzy there was a lot more finesse in the band, and with Dio there was a lot more just muscle. it was just
Mm,
power with
yeah, but when you
Dio.
say it like that, and that's I respect that, but when you say it like that, to me it sounds like when you say muscle and power, it sounds like, some He-Man, some bull in a china shop, and you're saying Ozzy has finesse. Let's be careful with the word finesse because Ozzy's kind of a bumbling fool.
No, I don't mean vocally. I don't mean
Oh, okay.
I'm not singling out the vocalist.
You mean tone.
I'm talking about the band at that time.
Yeah,
The
tone.
band with
Yeah.
Ozzy, to me, Black Sabbath with Ozzy had more finesse. Black Sabbath with Dio had more muscle. That's what
I
I'm
think that Ozzy, to be clear, is like this wicked jester, and Dio was like a wizard.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like Dio brought magic, and Ozzy was this had a childish effect to Black Sabbath, and I think that it's creating something that's different than what Dio created with the same fucking band.
Yeah. And but there's also probably you also have to factor in technology, producers. I mean, the
Martin
two Dio
Birch.
albums were done by Martin Birch, who is a master. Technology had probably grown leaps and bounds by 1980, 81 versus 1970 or 72 or whatever.
Yeah.
So they had those advantages. Um,
Vinny is a different drummer than Bill.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Less jazzy,
yeah,
a lot slimier, and what I mean by that is there's almost feels like polyrhythms happening during like Mob Rule's record, even just back to back to Heaven and Hell on releases. And Heaven and Hell, there it's slimy and just not as slimy and gooey as what Vinny can do, but Bill is really jazzy and can swing. He's swinging. He's like he's way behind the beat, like a John Bonham kind of a thing. It funny little tidbit. Ginger Baker, they made a documentary years ago, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was really kick ass.
yeah. I think
And he was just a fucking nutty character, and he
yeah.
talked so much shit about other drummers. I think he said it either about Bill Ward or John Bonham. He said, "Oh, he couldn't swing a sack of shit." I'm like, what? Even it doesn't matter which of those drummers he was talking
Right.
about. They can both swing a sack of shit.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
can swing a lot of shit.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, did you ever see Black Sabbath live with Ozzy back in the day?
F to the no.
Yeah, me
That's
neither.
what many episodes of Talk Louder. I've gotten depressed on camera, saying, saying, "Nope, I fucked up, missed that one too."
Yeah.
It's infamous. I just talked about it the prior episode about my younger brother Randy. Um, I'm like, dude, where were you last night? I went and saw Black Sabbath with Ozzy open for. I mean, yeah, Van Halen opened. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
killer. Yeah, stupid. Yeah,
Yeah,
stupid.
I never saw him back in the day. I guess I was probably too young. I wasn't going to concerts yet, but I did.
79. Yeah, never say die.
Yeah. Um, which is an album. We should talk about that album. I
Dude, there are some songs on there that could have been on volume 4, in my opinion.
Yes,
It's a modernized version of Sabbath, and I'm not saying you could tell where they were going with writing, because they didn't even know it till they had Ronnie, I'm sure.
yeah,
But dude, Junior's Eyes,
love that song.
holy shit.
Yeah, great song.
Uh,
The
yeah,
title track, dude. The title
yeah,
track is it's just a,
yeah,
barn burner.
yeah,
His Eyes is great, and I've always liked Johnny Blade. Some
yeah.
people think it's kind of cheesy, but
No
I've always thought
way,
it was
dude.
great.
I
And
like Ozzy's melodies.
yeah, and his voice. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
his voice
he sounds like he's trying to do like John Lennon or something. It's trippy.
and it fits the song. It's just like
Yeah.
again, I mean, I don't know if I want to hear anybody else sing because it doesn't have that same menace and that same desperate sort of, you know, I don't know. I keep going back to this the word maniacal or something. He almost sounds like
Okay.
an insane person, you know?
Yeah, but he sounds childish a little bit when you think about Johnny Blade,
Yeah, and
Johnny Blade. You know, it's there's this thing, there's a quality about it that's different that
yeah,
Dio fans might not understand.
yeah. I always thought "Never Say Die." The band hates it, and by all accounts, they were
What's
complete.
that other song? Aftershock?
Yeah,
Bow,
uh-huh.
down, 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 vow, 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 don't vow, vow, jam, bow, gow, down, don't vow, don't vow.
I think
That's
it's
old Sabbath.
I
That
think
could have been on the first like 3 or 4 albums.
yeah, I think it's a great
So
album,
good.
and it doesn't get the credit it deserves. I will admit that it's kind of spotty, but it's not the complete disaster that it gets made out to be in the history books.
We just culled 4 songs off of it that are godly.
Yeah, exactly. So, um, we were talking about so you said yeah, so I didn't get to see Ozzy with Black Sabbath because he was basically out of the band around 79, 80, and I
Hmm.
wasn't going to concerts yet. And I was always bummed out because I thought that's one of those bands that I never got to see. They became a favorite band of mine, and they were already history, and I was never going to see them. But of course, like all bands do, they did the reunion thing. And I want to say the first time I saw them reunited with Ozzy was with Pantera opening up. And I know I saw him with Pantera, and I think that's the first time I saw the reunited Black Sabbath. And man, that was such a treat for me because I was getting to see the band that I thought I'd never see and hear all those songs done with Ozzy on vocals. And, you know, of course, Pantera opening didn't hurt, but that was a great night and a great concert. I really
Can you
enjoyed
imagine, you know, what was going through the Pantera boys' minds?
having the time of their lives,
They
man.
wouldn't have had. Well, they those dudes had the time of their lives when they were mowing the lawn.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
guys, those guys rock. They know they're just having a good time all the time. So I mean, Pantera wouldn't exist. We wouldn't exist without Black Sabbath, and here they are. It was fucking church for those
Yeah.
guys. Yeah.
And I felt the same. I never got to see Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio um, until they reunited as Heaven and Hell. And again, it was kind of the same thing. I was like, oh my God, here's this band that I thought I'd never see live and wasn't ever expecting to see live because they had been broken up. But they got back together and did Heaven and Hell, and it was the same thing. I was like, oh man, I'm hearing all these songs, I'm seeing the band,
Yeah, I
and
saw that.
yeah, I
Uh,
saw you there. It was the
Verizon Wireless
yeah, I bumped into you out there.
with Judas Priest.
Judas
No?
Priest, Motorhead, and
Yeah,
Testament.
that's
What
right. That's right.
what a
So I have a friend of mine, Tony Black, God rest his soul. Um, he gave me this. You know, when you go to the concert and there's giant promotional banners that have all 4 of the, maybe it's above the ticket will call or something, it has all the promoter's name and all 4 bands. It's a it's as big as the wall in your house,
yeah,
and it's that really thick, like a tornado could wash it on it and it'd be like, yeah, whatever.
yeah,
It would yawn at you. That's how thick this thing is. Anyway, I have it rolled up in my garage. I had it hanging up for a long time, but it's from that tour, the Metal Masters tour.
ooh, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
And it has all their names. It doesn't have the names of Motorhead and Testament, but Judas Priest and Heaven and Hell has all their names.
Yeah. So let's talk about a couple records that don't get a lot of recognition.
I got one. I got
Yeah,
a record I want to talk about.
do it.
Live Evil.
Well, okay. Let me go one better. Since
Okay.
we are talking about Black Sabbath with Ozzy and with Dio, and this episode is sort of at least titled Ozzy versus Dio, let me put Live Evil up against Speak of the Devil. Which one do you take?
Ooh,
See what I
wow.
did there?
Probably, probably speak of the devil,
I gotta
and
go with
that,
Speak of the Devil.
and that's not even wow, and that's not even like, was it Tommy Aldridge? Who's in the
Drumming,
band? Is it Tommy
it's
and
Tommy's,
Rudy
yeah, Sarzo, Aldridge, and
and
the album it's Brad Gillis.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
No, that was the one I was leaving off because it was kind of obvious. That's there was I've seen like footage of him maybe not rehearsing with those guys, but like warming up backstage and putting on the, you got the guitar player from Night Ranger
yeah,
who's wearing like polka dots and stripes, closer to what Randy Rhoads would wear, but then he's gonna sit in for Ozzy and record a live record after he's only learned this like 20 songs in 3 days or something crazy like that,
yeah.
and they make a live record. I wonder if he had to punch. I wonder if he messed up enough to where he felt like he had to go back in the studio and punch some of that live shit in, fix it.
I don't know, but
Good
the album,
question, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah, the album sounds great, and between those
it
two,
rips.
yeah. And if I had, it would almost be easier to have an episode Speak of the Devil versus Live Evil than an episode that's Ozzy versus Dio, because the distinctions are so much easier to pick apart. I never really liked the Live Evil record, and some of that I think is because I don't, and this is not, I don't mean this disrespectfully. I just don't like the sound of Dio's voice doing Ozzy's songs. You know what I mean?
This is why I jumped on it and threw it on the table because that makes the probably the better argument so far in this episode is Dio singing the Ozzy stuff because Ozzy, there was never even a chance for Ozzy's gone. He's
Right,
not gonna when he's reuniting with Sabbath. He's
right.
got he's got plenty of they've got enough material. It's like this sounds terrible when I say it, but Dio who, right? So
Yeah,
when you think about heaven and what, right? So
yeah,
the heaven and rules, the mob heaven, no, it doesn't work. So he's not doing Dio Sabbath, of course. That's hurts my brain. I'll
right.
stop. Okay,
Yeah,
so yeah, Dio singing the old stuff, we'll say, right?
right.
Here you go. It's like Hagar singing the Roth stuff.
Or actually, yeah, it's the same thing. It's like David Lee Roth is never going to have to sing a Sammy Hagar Van Halen
Okay, it's the
song.
same. We're talking about the same token
Right.
of like, yeah, this is a stone that's been buried in the rock.
But
No one should pull this stone out of the rock.
but the successor is always going to have to sing the predecessor's songs, at least one
Right.
or two of them.
Right.
It'll
Whoever is singing in Skid Row, they're singing Sebastian's shit.
Oh yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's it. That's
exactly.
just to be
So
clear. Yeah, it's
so
obvious.
so those two albums, Speak of the Devil versus Live Evil, I've always favored by a long shot. Actually, Speak of the Devil. Uh, I just never could quite accept Ronnie's voice singing Ozzy stuff, and I I'm just gonna straight up say it. That Speak of the Devil record has some energy to it. I feel like I'm at the concert when I listen to that record.
Well, and it's to be clear, it's people should go to our affiliate links below and click on that to see the set list. It is Sabbath, but it's also Ozzy, right? Crazy
No, it's
Train
all
and
Black Sabbath. It's
what?
it's all Black Sabbath. That's why I put those two albums against each other
Hold
head to
on.
head.
Speak of the Devil is all Black Sabbath?
All Black Sabbath, yes. Because before I know this for a fact.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. And that's why I put those two albums head to head and posed the question. It's like which one would you prefer? Because they're both
So so
nothing
he's
but Black
still
Sabbath
this is interesting. You just turned my brain upside down.
records. No, Speak of the
Um
Devil is, in fact, Randy Rhoads was. They knew that it was a contractual obligation of some sort. Randy knew that he was going to have to do the Speak of the Devil record, and he hated the idea of having to do a full record of Black Sabbath songs. And then, of course, the plane crashed, and it was a non-issue. But it was a sticking point for Randy Rhoads, and it became a non-issue because of the plane crash. And it's an entire album of nothing but Black Sabbath songs, and of course, so is Live Evil. That's why I put the two against each other and asked you to pick which one would you
Mhm.
take, since we're talking about Ozzy versus Dio, and in both cases on both albums they're singing all Black Sabbath songs.
Wow. I swear I recall there being, maybe I'm thinking of the tribute album.
Or what you might be thinking of, it's possible.
Is the tribute album with Randy have Black Sabbath songs on
It's
it?
got a few, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's my mistake. That's my mistake. So Speak
Or
of the Devil is all Sabbath.
what? Yeah, the
Okay.
recording's all Sabbath. Where I was going to throw you a bone here and say that uh, there was a concert performance that was aired on MTV that was the Speak of the Devil lineup with Brad Gillis on guitar. Now, it's possible that on that video concert footage, they might have done some Ozzy songs, but the
I
album that you
see.
can go buy, the album Speak of the Devil, is all Black Sabbath songs.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting.
And I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm glad you mentioned our affiliate links in the description, because that's an album that everybody should go buy because it's
Yeah, it kicks ass.
blistering. It's a
And
great.
if you can find a decent price on Live Evil, pick that one up too. Just
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the artwork is pretty
it's
cool.
awesome. Yeah, the artwork is great.
The take, it's kind of a Mob Rule style. It's darker than that. It has caricatures that represent all of the old Black Sabbath album covers and stuff.
Yeah,
It
some of it was recorded in San Antonio.
wow,
At least one or two of the songs was recorded in
interesting.
San Antonio. That album is the album that caused Dio to leave Black Sabbath,
Oh my God.
because
I had
they
to bring it up.
they
Anyway.
had some. If you listen, if depending on who you listen to, uh, Ronnie and Vinny were sort of like the Eddie Van Halen and Alex Van Halen, and Tony and Geezer were kind of the David Lee Roth and the Mike Anthony. They were divided into two separate camps, and Dio claims one camp claims that the other camp snuck into the studio at night and turned up the guitars and the bass and turned down the vocals. And the other team says that Ronnie came in the middle of the night and turned up the vocals and turned down the guitars. And it sounds preposterous now, but that was actually the basis of a feud that led to the departure of Ronnie James Dio, and it was that album Live Evil that kind of started the whole friction that ended up in him leaving the band.
Wow. Well, let's not say that it was time for Dio to go solo anyway.
And he took Vinny with him too, just for good measure.
Well, I think that Vinny was already on his speed dial anyway.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I feel like it was Ronnie that got Vinny. Hey, Bill's not doing Mob Rules. Come down to the studio, right? I feel like it was Ronnie that did that. Am I wrong?
I don't. So say again. I'm sorry. I missed some of that.
Bill's not playing drums on Mob Rules. Ron calls Vin.
Well, Vinny was in on the Heaven and Hell tour, so
Oh,
yeah, he
oh.
came in halfway through the tour because Bill did the Heaven and Hell record, and I think started the tour and couldn't finish it, or he might not have even started it.
What's the connection? How did Vinny who has Vinny on speed dial, Dave?
Who has Vinny on speed dial?
I'm saying Ronnie.
I'm gonna say Ronnie because Ronnie's a New Yorker, and I think Vinny's a New Yorker, and
Yeah.
they were the two Americans, and they probably had crossed paths at some point. So yeah, I'm
Oh
gonna
yeah.
say Ronnie's got him on speed dial.
Well, they
Um,
probably knew each other from the neighborhood.
yeah, they could have.
New
Yeah,
York, Jersey, right.
yeah, that
Hmm.
general area.
Hmm.
So did you ever see Black Sabbath with Dio? Did you see the Heaven and Hell tour, the Mob
I
Rules tour?
I never saw the Mob Rules tour. Um, I I don't know for sure. Either my brother Randy or some of my friends saw the Black and Blue tour, which was Black Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult, and
Yeah.
I think that it's way out of print, but there's a concert. There's concert footage of that tour,
Yep.
where it's both bands on one VHS or DVD or whatever,
Yep.
and you might be able to download it, or it's probably on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's just called Black and Blue, and it's Black Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult, which is a really cool pairing, if you ask me.
It is. It really is. That movie actually, you used to be able to go to the drive-in and watch it just like you used to be able to go see AC/DC's Let There Be Rock.
Hmm.
Uh,
Was it maybe a midnight movie
yes,
for all you
exactly.
old fuckers out there that know
Exactly.
the midnight movie?
Yeah, exactly. It
Hmm.
was one of those things. It might not have been a drive-through. Maybe it was that's what it was. It was a theater production, but you could only see it at like midnight on Saturday, one Saturday out of the month or something.
Yeah, that's the Rocky Horror Picture Show was one of the sort of like
Yeah.
rotating midnight
Yeah.
movies you could
Same
see.
same deal. Same deal.
Let There Be Rock, AC/DC, Song Remains the Same, Led Zeppelin,
Right.
Rocky Horror Picture Show, Pink Floyd, The Wall,
Yeah.
which was the longest running probably midnight movie, other than Rocky Horror maybe. And then you're saying that this Black and Blue, which was Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult,
Yeah.
uh,
It started like
to-
that.
totally worthy of that sort of like merry-go-round
Yeah.
of rock movie.
So let's talk about the Dio album with Sabbath that most people forget about, and that's Dehumanizer. Do you know
Yes,
that one?
yes.
So
I'm going blank um on some song titles.
yeah, there was TV
Uh,
Crimes. There was a song called I. There was a song
that's
called
right.
Time Machine.
Right. Was there a title track?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But so that album, it came along so late that I probably never gave it the fair chance it deserves.
Yeah,
And
I have forgive me, Father, I have sinned. I did not listen to Dehumanizer when it came out because I was busy listening to some other thing that was probably not worth listening to.
well, we probably moved on at that point, you know. And the
Well, it's terrible because that thing has been remastered and reissued at least once or twice,
yeah,
and it's something that should be in my collection just because it has the great Dio on it.
yeah.
You know.
And I think one of the reasons it was even uh, kind of made it into the public eye was because one of the tracks was featured in one of the Wayne's World movies. And
Oh,
that sort of helped give it a boost, you know, kind of because obviously Wayne's World was a huge thing at the time when it came out,
yeah,
and I want to say it was either the song "Time Machine" or the song "I," but they had a song from Dehumanizer that was on the Wayne's World soundtrack, and that kind of gave it an extra little push. So I
interesting.
was aware of it, and I have it now. I have a box set called Black Sabbath: The Dio Years,
Hmm.
and it's got Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, Live Evil, and Dehumanizer. And so every once in a while, I try to reacquaint myself with Dehumanizer, but it just to me it's impossible for it to stand up to Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell. So I probably don't give it the chance it
That
deserves. But
that makes me feel better about my confession. You know
well, your
that.
confession is my confession. I
Yeah,
basically
I
did the
just
same
didn't
thing.
give it the chance that it probably deserved. But I seem to recall I being pretty badass.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
definitely worthy.
yeah.
So
And so, along the same lines, let's talk about Heaven and Hell put out a record, and it's, basically Heaven and Hell
which
is
is basically Black Sabbath
with Dio.
because they just can't call it Black Sabbath
Right.
because there's some contractual bullshit going on.
Right. So have
Yeah.
you ever heard that record?
What's it called?
It's called The Devil You Know.
Okay. So I should probably just let myself out because don't
Well,
I
okay,
don't
look,
I don't have any I don't have any I'm drowning here. I don't have any.
I'm gonna throw you a lifeline here.
Okay.
I have it, and I listened to it a couple times because I wanted so desperately to like it because it's the great Black Sabbath with the
Uh
great Ronnie James Dio on vocals.
uh-oh.
And I have to say that to me, it's one of these records where every song is what I like to call a plotter. It just has that plodding,
Dun 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 dun
droning.
dun
It's
dun
not
dun
even
dun
that
dun dun dun
upbeat,
dun.
dude. I
Oh
mean, it's
shit.
just it's very
Well,
slow.
Sabbath did that with Dio very well,
They
right?
did, and I like it in bits and pieces as
But Sabbath Dio, like when you think of like the beginning of War Pigs, bow, and just the song Black Sabbath, bow,
yeah,
bow,
right.
drone.
Yeah,
That's drone,
yeah,
wall of sound, right?
yeah.
Which is what they're known for. It's part
Right,
of the
exactly.
doom thing,
But
right?
I like it better when there's ebb and flow to an album, especially when you've got Ronnie James Dio singing, you know. It's
Yeah,
like I'm waiting for the next Neon Nights, or I'm waiting for the next
you
Turn Up the Night,
yeah,
you know.
your running order, just for lack of a better, just for terminology, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast.
Sure, yeah. And I felt like that album was just all one speed, and it was this all sort of
I see.
plodding, you know,
Yeah,
uh, either mid tempo to slow tempo. It was a very drony kind of album, in my opinion.
yeah.
So I never really gave it much more than a few listens. But
Well, thanks for pulling me out of the pool.
yeah, hey, what are friends
I
for,
was,
man?
I was, right. I was drowning. So it's called The Devil You Know
The Devil You Know, yeah.
and Dehumanizer. Those are two records that I'm
Tho-
just
Those are two records
confessing.
that I'd like our listeners to comment on because obviously you and
Yeah.
I didn't give them enough of a shake. And if anybody out there is into those albums and has something to share about, your
Yeah,
opinion,
yeah, they need to comment and tell.
educate us,
Yeah,
please.
they need to tell us what's wrong.
Yeah,
Tell us what's
educate us
wrong
on
with you
those
guys. You
records.
guys are dicks.
Yeah,
Those records are
that's
awesome. Fuck
fine.
you
Yeah,
guys. Yeah, no, I want that to
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
So it's also saying here. Let me throw this up. What about 13? The Ozzy, the Sabbath
Ah,
record. Once again, no Bill
no
Ward.
Bill Ward. To me, that's a big bummer, man.
I'm out. I'm turning this shit off. So, so he's okay. He's got demons and da da da. He was gonna do a tour. Da da da. He wouldn't even sign the contracts. Maybe that's I'm ahead of myself or
No, that
behind or
sounds right.
something. Okay, so I'm Bill Ward and I'm not playing on the new Black Sabbath record. So they get Mike Borden, who's friends with the Osbournes and has
You know who
helped.
plays on that record?
Oh shit! The hold on, don't tell me. I'm not gonna. I don't know his name, but he was in Rage.
Right. It's not
Yeah,
Mike Borden, it's Brad Wilk.
Rage Against the Machine.
Rage Against the Machine, yeah.
Mhm.
Mike Borden would have
Who's
been
a yeah? They're both great.
yeah.
They're both great.
Yeah,
I
but
I have some anger issues that I want to talk about here in a minute when you're done talking about 13.
my opinion with 13 is number one, major bummer that there's no Bill Ward. That's a huge strike against it, in my
Oh, so
opinion.
I chalked up the huge bummer factor about 13 before we even got into it.
Yeah, and
Okay.
otherwise, I was kind of excited about it because it's the first album in a long time. It got a lot of hype, and I kind of fell for some of the hype. Then I got the album. I listened to it a few times, and I felt like overall the songs were too long. It's one of those albums where I felt like they could have used an editor, you know. And
Well, here's
again,
something when Sabbath is known for being drony, as we've said,
uh huh,
and have this doom thing, and
yeah,
when your songs are played slow, your songs are long.
Yeah.
If you have an intro like a guitar riff or whatever, and then you've got the band comes in and plays 4 bars, and then you got a verse, and then you got a pre-chorus, and maybe a short chorus the first time, then you got a second verse. Da, da, da. If your tempo is boom, go, you're 6 minutes in, and you've only got to the second chorus.
Yeah. And I think that's the
This is
case.
that's just how the ball bounces when you're playing that style of metal, of rock, whatever.
And I'm fine with that. My point is they had all that in the early days, but they were smart enough to mix it up with,
Yeah.
then they throw in a Paranoid or a Children of the Grave or something. I got no problem with the drony stuff. I just can't listen to it for the entire length of an album. It gets too
Right.
samey to me.
I don't remember there being a whole, well, I don't think I got past one song, but I didn't buy the record. I think it was like the single had come out, whatever it was. And the first thing thought and maybe even said out loud was, this sounds like Zach wrote it.
Uh,
It, sound, it sounded like Iommi was borrowing Zach Wild style guitar riff.
I don't
I
I don't
don't
know.
know. I don't know how. I don't know why I would remember that, but I remembered it, and it could have been the reason I turned it off. Now I'm a fan of Zach Wild.
Yeah.
I like his riffs. I like his riffs in Ozzy. I like his riffs in Black Label Society. But
Yeah.
the point that I do recall about 13 was, and whatever song it was, I'm sure, like I said, it was the
Single.
first release single or whatever.
Yeah, the single was something like Is God Dead?
Okay, well, I thought it sounded like Zach wrote the riff, and I was wondering why the riff master would, I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
I'm paying attention to the riff in a song.
I think Zach, a lot of his stuff ended up sounding very Sabbathy. So, uh,
Well, duh. He
yeah,
was he was trying to, you know, write songs so Ozzy's, material would sound more Sabbath
yeah.
style.
The
I mean, I feel like Stillborn, not to talk about Zach and Black Label Society, but Stillborn, that song,
yeah,
Ozzy even sings on that song,
yeah,
backup vocals.
yeah,
That sounds like it could have been a Black Sabbath song.
yeah, yeah. Because even Zach, when he's singing, emulates Ozzy. It-
Duh. I mean,
yeah,
he's trying to do that anyway. Zach's trying to do his best Ozzy mixed with Lane Staley, mixed with Axl Rose. Pull up any Black Label record and listen to like 3 or 4 songs and
yeah,
try and think about those vocal stylings in a blender.
yeah.
No, I'll wait.
I think, just based on the topic of our conversation, I feel like we needed to mention 13, The Devil You Know, and Dehumanizer. But I'll tell you, um, I don't find myself reaching for those albums very often, and
Yeah.
probably never will. And it may be my own fault, but it's just because there's so much quality stuff otherwise.
Thanks for circling the wagons there. That was pretty pro. So I have some I have some anger issues. Well, we could go. This is one of those moments where you and I can just underline the geek word and just go for
Yeah.
hours. So here's something that I want to talk about. That this is makes me red in the face. I mean, I'm already naturally red in the face, but this makes me mad. And I remember I was working at a record store at the time that she did this.
Uh-oh.
Uh huh. You know what I'm got? Are you reading my mind right now?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know the
Re-
she, and I don't want.
reissues.
Oh, okay.
Mike Borden,
Oh my God.
Robert Trio. Yeah.
No, don't even go there.
Oh, what what was she thinking?
Okay. Well, first of all, we're
Bob Daisley.
we're talking about Ozzy solo records,
Two,
and
two or three of them. Three of them.
I
Two of
thought
them.
well, they were trying to erase the Daisley Kerslake tracks, so that would have only been the
Well,
first two.
I'm sure they didn't erase them, but
Wait,
they took them off and
yeah,
re-recorded new parts.
right.
Now I'm
But-
about to like barf, right? I'm
Yeah.
physically getting ill thinking about. I mean, that's like there being a rift in the Led Zeppelin camp back in the day, or maybe a few years after when everybody's still alive, and someone going, "Oh, fuck John Bonham and
Yeah.
what's the bass player's name?
John Paul
Yeah,
Jones. Yeah.
thank you. I should be shot right now.
We're gonna
Anyway, so yeah, fuck them. They didn't. I don't care if they wrote all the songs. We're gonna re-record all of the. That's like you're messing with the Bible of rock.
yeah.
That's like, the Colonel getting in a fight with Elvis and going, well, fuck him. I'll just get Sammy Hagar to sing all the Elvis songs. I'll re record all the Elvis songs and get Sammy Hagar to do it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing to me. It's preposterous. It's the stupidest,
Yeah. And
craziest fucking bullshit I've ever heard in my life that this was going to happen. Well, I thought it was bullshit. And then I held the records in my hand.
yeah.
And I was like, it had a giant hype sticker on the covers that said, newly recorded bass and drums. Hold on a second. First off, if I was a rock fan and I was an Ozzy fan, I'd be going, hold on a second. So
Yeah.
you re-recorded Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake's
The hell is wrong
fucking
with you?
parts?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the dudes that are going bob bump, bob bump, bob bump, bob, the dudes that fucking wrote that
Yeah.
are erased like they never existed.
Yeah. Yeah. That
I'm going to yell at the camera in a minute.
and the backlash
Hold me back.
was swift and severe as it should be. And I
So
think
so here's what you do. I think they're out of print, thank God. They got pulled.
yeah.
I think that if you turn it's only on CD. I don't think they got any to kind of special limited vinyl release or anything. Shit, maybe it did because vinyl was on the comeback, right? If you turn the CDs over, it's the spiral where that's another shitty idea. You have to turn the CD art around to read the fucking titles.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
go in a swirl. I think that's what they did to the back of those things.
Well, that was a really bad decision, and it backfired, and it should have, and hopefully nobody will ever do that again. But to be clear, we're talking about Ozzy solo records here. So, uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, but it was a crime that that was even done. But let's circle the wagons one more time and go back to the show is Ozzy versus Dio, Black Sabbath. If you had to pick one, which catalog are you going with? The Ozzy catalog or the Dio catalog?
Can't do it.
But
I
you
can't
have
do
to
it
for the
because
sake of the show.
it's not a fight, you know? In the words of Ronnie James Dio, it's two different bands.
Yeah. I've always so my
There's us and there's them. That's pretty much what it kind of turns into. I have friends whose musical opinions, for the most part, I rever very. I respect them,
yeah.
and they will not claim Ozzy whatsoever. They'll listen to Black Sabbath if it has Dio singing.
Yeah.
Is that strange to a Black Sabbath fan? Just
Well,
a fair weathered Black Sabbath fan?
my whole dilemma is this. I as I've mentioned, one of my favorite albums of all time is Heaven and Hell. It's also my favorite Black Sabbath album. But Black Sabbath as a band is one of my favorite bands.
Right.
So if I'm forced to choose, I'm going to have to favor Ozzy's lineup, the Ozzy version, because number one, that's the band that put Sabbath on the map, and you could
Right.
say heavy metal in general. Two, they have a deeper catalog than Sabbath did with Ronnie James Dio. So that's two major advantages. But in the same breath, I will say that those, especially those first two, and I'm not going to count dehumanizers, uh, call me crazy if you will, and bitch at me in the comments. But for all intents and purposes, for me, Black Sabbath with Dio is Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. Those are two outstanding records that I would never deny, and I'll put them on anytime and love every minute of it. But all things considered, I got to give the advantage to the Ozzy era Black Sabbath.
Okay, I got one for you. So what about if you had to choose, just so you know, I can't choose. Uh
Oh, that's been
between
obvious.
between
Yeah.
Holy Diver and Blizzard of Oz. Okay, go.
I gotta have Blizzard of Oz.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a
Okay.
huge Randy Rhoads fan, and I'm a big Bob Daisley fan.
Well, I'll take your copy of Holy Diver. Just my address is
It's hanging right there, and it says to Dave, uh, "You rock, Ronnie James Dio." So
is
you're,
it legible?
oh yeah, it's one of the best
Damn.
autographs I have. The Sharpie was on point that day,
And if
man.
if it wasn't legible, I'll just say, yeah, that's he meant to write Jason.
No.
When I come to your house and get it, because you need to replace it with Blizzard of Oz.
It's actually one of the best autographs I have as far as the ink and cooperating and everything. Came out great.
You're one of those.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, look
If
at.
I know that ink blot on my debut Iron Maiden records, if I know that it's Paul Diano making that ink blot, I don't need anybody else to know.
Yeah.
So, you got Ozzy's solo career and you got Dio's solo career.
Yeah.
How many Dio records are there?
A lot.
Okay, well, do your best. So,
um,
say them out loud.
well, I stopped counting.
Holy Diver, Last in Line.
Sacred Heart.
Ooh,
Um, and then I'm gonna get out of order here, but
that doesn't matter.
there's Dream Evil, Lock Up the Wolves,
Yep, that's five.
uh, uh, uh,
It's pretty good.
something time, not Time Machine. There's
You're doing
uh,
better than me.
uh, something Machine, and then there's something Lost Highways or
Oh
something.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh,
That's like six or seven right there. Okay, what about Ozzy?
oh, Ozzy, Blizzard of Oz, Diary of a Madman, uh,
Bark
uh,
at the Moon.
Bark at the Moon, Ultimate
Hmm.
Sin,
Hmm.
Osmosis, No
Ooh,
More Tears. Um,
a lot of lineup changes.
yeah, well, jumping ahead, there's
It's fine.
Black Rain. Is that one?
I think you're right.
Is there one called Scream or something like that? I'm
Mm,
jumping way ahead.
Scream for me, Long Beach. I don't know. You know
uh,
what? That's enough. So
yeah,
the all I was trying to do here, as we sort of like get to the end of our show, our big show, is hold up this huge body of hard rock, heavy metal music that were spawned basically by Black Sabbath
yeah,
and Rainbow, all on the Deep Purple spectrum,
yeah,
and throw it up in the air and just kind of look at the rainbow. No pun intended. But
yeah. There's
the, it's an incredible body of work, and I'm with you. I can't really pick and choose and sleep on it and then just change my mind the next day. It just doesn't work that way for me. I think that I'll throw this out there. Into the Void is probably could be a fight, an argument as probably one of the greatest heavy metal songs written of all time. And I can't imagine Dio singing that. Can't imagine anyone else singing that other than Jonathan Osborne.
right. Exactly. And that's kind of the point, they both guys fronted what I consider to be two distinctly different bands. The sound was different, uh, the lyrical content got a little different, and the personalities of the voices um, only make sense at the time. You know, Ronnie doesn't make sense singing Ozzy. Ozzy wouldn't make sense singing Ronnie stuff. I don't want to hear Ozzy sing Neon Nights, and I don't want to
No,
hear Dio sing, you know, Sweet Leaf.
right.
Uh,
Or Sammy sing Romeo's Delight.
Right. You know, but in their own time and space, they're both excellent. I mean, far and away some of the greatest hard rock, heavy metal ever. You know, so yeah, there really is no winner. It all boils down to preference. I give the advantage to Ozzy for the reasons I've already stated, but I can't take anything away from Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. Just
I'm sticking with no contest, like you said at the top of the show. The
yeah,
versus is not because it's one against the other. It's there would be it's like the yin and the yang, and it's colors that it's different colors that go together very very well, and you know cheers to the Ozman and to our fallen hero and Ronnie James Dio.
yeah. Thank you both for some fantastic, timeless, classic heavy metal. And with that, let's wrap up Ozzy versus Dio. We declare the winner, both of them.
Yeah,
Wait, we're not allowed to do that, are we?
there's not a winner.
Yeah, there's not a winner. You know who the winner is? Us, the
That's right.
fans.
We, all of us, the fans, win
Yeah,
every time.
that's
Yes,
who's the winner.
that's right.
All right, let's move on to our shot of rock and roll. All right, my shot of rock and roll to you, Jason. In keeping with today's Black Sabbath theme, you actually made a reference to this earlier, so you kind of beat me to the punch. But I was going to remind people that for a short, hot minute, many, many moons ago, Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath actually spent a little time in Jethro Tull. And I was going to ask you, what are your thoughts on the band Jethro Tull?
Right. Subconsciously, that may have made me think of that, but I don't think so because it was all about, Ozzy and friends and Dio and friends. Um, I don't think I have. I might have Aqualung. I might have to dig for it. There's a lot of stuff in this house.
Yeah.
It's like a poltergeist, motherfucker. This house.
Yeah.
And I might have Aqualung. It's probably a beat vinyl copy. Um, and I think that Aqualung is probably the song, not Cross-Eyed Mary, and if I were going to go buy if I were looking for an affiliate link in our description in below in our YouTube description
Yeah.
on Jethro Tull, I would hope that it would be a greatest hits album because I could learn a thing or two.
Yeah.
And I know that Aqualung would be on it. That was a radio song. That was a big song. And you
Yeah.
know what? That's a prog rock song. There's weird the riff it can go gone don't burn don't it feels like a Led Zeppelin riff to me when you think about it. When you sing the riff, it feels like,
Yeah.
down on it, down on it, down, 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 shake it up, boom, go, do, boom, boom. See what I'm saying?
They were,
So I like it that it fits in there with a lot of things that were happening from in the British Isles and the hard rock and underground heavy metal and prog metal and what early prog metal before it was even called that, Pink Floyd and stuff like that.
yeah.
And I think Jethro Tull makes a mark there. But I am embarrassed enough that I don't have any Jethro Tull to really speak of.
Yeah. They're one of those bands that I never really collected, but obviously appreciate and respect their place in rock history.
So,
Talented
Ian
bunch of dudes. And
Ian Anderson, tell me about Ian Anderson. Let's talk about him real quick.
well, you know, I mean, probably the first guy to ever play flute in a hard rock band, or at least
Well,
play it, persistently. I'm sure other band.
I think that you're right, but also when you think about Stairway to Heaven, that has flutes.
No, what I'm saying is he was the one guy.
Front man.
Yeah, and to use it as an ongoing continuous part of each song in each album. It wasn't flavoring one song on out of 5 albums.
Right.
It was an integral part and a constant part of their sound. It was every bit as important to their sound as the guitars.
Do
'Cause
you have any Jethro Tull records?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. But
So
I do but
thick as a brick is another
yeah.
thing, another
My I
song
think
and
my
album.
favorite song by them, and again, I don't dig very deep. I don't have too many layers when it comes to Jethro Tull, but I've always liked Locomotive Breath. I
Ooh,
always thought
yeah.
that was just a good grinding kind of.
So didn't Iron Maiden cover that as well as Cross-Eyed Mary? Did
I
they
don't
do
remember them
Locomotive Breath?
doing Locomotive Breath. I know they did
Okay.
Cross-Eyed Mary.
Yeah.
I don't remember Locomotive Breath.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, here's my Jethro Tull story. When I first moved to Austin, I had a job, and I was working with a guy who would, I think he would even admit he was kind of an older hippie type dude. So he was probably a good 10, maybe 15 years older than me.
Was his name Steve Grimmett?
No,
He didn't sing for Grim Reaper?
no, no, no,
Okay, that's good. Okay.
no. This is a different guy. Yeah, no. This guy was a rock fan, but he was from a previous generation. So he grew up on Jethro Tull, and I did not. I grew up listening to him on the radio. But anyway, we kind of became buddies at work, and Jethro Tull was coming to town, and they played uh, a beautiful venue here in Austin, Texas, that is no longer, called the Backyard.
I knew you were going to
And
say
it
that.
was under the stars and under the trees, and it was a beautiful setting out on a hilltop.
I saw Yes there.
So you're okay. So
Mhm.
same type of band in that setting. It was kind of magical. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching Jethro Tull and I'm listening and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my God, I I this is where Tool got everything." It reminded me of like a precursor to what Tool is. It was just so dynamic, and parts of it were really heavy, and it was, I don't know, it was just, it was real proggy, of course, and it reminded me of, because I'm from the new school and my buddy's from the old school, right? So his reference point is Jethro Tull. My reference point upon watching it and listening to it is, man, this sounds like this sounds like Tool.
Let's correct something real quick. You said your new school?
Well, compared to him.
Right. Just to be clear. Okay,
Yeah,
move on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There ain't nothing new school going on in this show.
Right, right, right.
Anyway,
No, but
whatever new school is, so
yeah, but I just
stuck in
remember being
1987.
impressed.
So,
I remember being impressed with Jethro Tull. I mean, I was always impressed with the stuff I heard on the radio, and I've always respected them as a band and their longevity and their talent, and Ian Anderson for being so unique. And God bless them, the whole bunch, Martin Bear and Jethro Tull, great, great band, influenced Iron Maiden. So
isn't the drummer Ainsley Dunsbar? Is that right?
I don't think Ainsley. He might have been in Jethro Tull at one time.
I'm throwing that name sounds super familiar. I think he
Well,
had some.
Ainsley's played for everybody, but I don't
Okay.
remember him
Yeah.
ever being in Jethro Tull. But I
Okay.
could be right. I mean, he's such a journeyman drummer,
Yeah.
so who knows? But anyway, I remember seeing Jethro Tull live in concert, and I remember thinking, "Wow, they are really powerful and proggy, and there's a lot of musicality going on here." And it just reminded me of what would later be known as a band like Tool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, did you know that I feel like I've talked about this in way back in an earlier episode. And if someone can find it in one of our earlier episodes, this story that I'm about to tell, now it's time for you to pay attention because you could win a free grab bag from Jason McMaster.
Oh.
So I think I've told this story before, and that's what you're looking for in an older episode. And this story is, Dave, to you, it goes like this. Did you know that, and these are things I've heard, not things I know because I was standing on the pier, but Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull made most of his bank from his fishery. He's got fishing boats off the coast of Scotland.
Yeah, you told me this
But
before.
was it in an episode? If it was in an episode and people can tell us what episode it was in and we can go research that and check their facts, this would be one of them. If you can connect this episode with an older episode, I'll send you a grab bag of some McMaster, just junk I have laying around here. I'll send you a box of
Just
crap.
some shit I'm trying to get rid of.
Sure. No, I guarantee it'll be good shit.
Oh, I know, and I've been the recipient of some of your hand-me-downs and grab bags
Yeah,
before.
here, take this, Dave. I got 10,000 of them.
Yeah, it's always
That
good
kind of
stuff.
thing. Yeah.
All right, well, I wanted to do the shot of rock, sort of keeping it with the theme of Black Sabbath, so I thought I'd throw in Jethro Tull by way
That's
of
good.
Naomi. So
Yeah, and you did. We connected them with Iommi. I have a feeling that's sort of a. I don't think that he's credited on Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus
I
as
don't know if he is. I know he.
guitar player for Jethro Tull. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
All right, man. Well, let's wrap this one. Again, another great conversation. Ozzy versus Dio. The only winners in that contest are us, the fans. And we appreciate both gentlemen in that band for bringing us so many great records and so much great music. On that note, remember, hit up our talklouderpodcast.com website. That's where you can find t-shirts and coffee mugs. Again, that's talklouderpodcast.com. Check our affiliate links in the description section of the YouTube episode. You can do some shopping there for some of the items we've mentioned in this episode. Until next time, I'm Metal Dave Glessner. That's my co-host, Jason McMaster. We'll catch you all on the flip side.